Alright, we need to talk about New Orleans. The signal-to-noise ratio on this situation is incredibly high right now, and the data coming out of Louisiana is, well, it's alarming. We're seeing a high-entropy event unfold in real time, and if you look at the first principles of what's happening, it's a collision between federal force and local reality that has a non-zero probability of ending in tragedy. So, here's the breaking news. The Department of Homeland Security, specifically under this new Department of War framework we keep hearing about, has just announced a massive immigration crackdown. This isn't a small operation. They are calling it Operation Catalo Crunch, which, frankly, sounds like a breakfast cereal, but the kinetics are serious. They are aiming to arrest up to 5,000 people. To put that order of magnitude in perspective, that is hundreds more than what they targeted in Chicago. And this isn't just the French Quarter, this is a zone extending 80+ miles northwest to the state capital. We are talking about a brigade-sized element sweeping through the region. Ryan Young is on the ground in New Orleans, and the feedback loop from the community is immediate panic. It's terrified. You have businesses like this local taqueria Ryan showed that have just decided to close their doors. They aren't waiting for the agents. They are preemptively shutting down the economic engine because the risk profile for their workers and customers is too high. You see signs popping up everywhere. Everyone is welcome here except ICE. And another one explicitly stating, do not have consent to enter this business unless they have a valid judicial warrant. People are trying to erect a legal firewall because the physical one is about to be breached. But here is the most interesting, and perhaps most disturbing, psychological shift. Organizers are telling people to treat this like COVID. Remember the lockdowns. They are advising residents to shelter in place. Don't go out for necessities unless you have to. It's a game of endurance now. The strategy is to try and outlast the federal agents. But the uncertainty is massive. No one knows the vectors the agents will take in the first 24 hours. Even the mayor-elect, she hasn't even taken office yet. She's the first Hispanic mayor in the city's history, is completely in the dark and deeply concerned. And this brings us to a critical variable that I don't think Washington is calculating correctly: the gun laws. Louisiana is a constitutional carry state. You do not need a license to carry a concealed weapon. So, think about the physics of this engagement. You have federal agents, potentially in plainclothes or tactical gear, jumping out of unmarked cars with masks on. You have a local population that is legally armed and on high alert, fearing for their lives. If someone sees a masked man jumping out of a van, and they don't immediately identify them as law enforcement, the probability of a kinetic response of someone shooting in self-defense is extremely high. This is a fog of war scenario in an American city. The crime stats in New Orleans are actually down year to date. Positive momentum. But the fear is that this operation will break the trust in the system entirely. People will stop calling 911. They will go dark. And when the community goes dark, crime usually spikes. Now, to understand the logic, or lack thereof, behind this, we have Tricia McLaughlin from Homeland Security. She calls this Catalo Crunch and insists the focus is on the worst of the worst. Her argument is that New Orleans functions as a sanctuary city, so local authorities were releasing criminals, burglars, gang members, rapists back onto the streets instead of handing them to ICE. She says they are targeting these specific individuals. We will continue, whether it be 5,000 arrests or beyond, she said. It's a quota-driven operation. But then we get to the rhetoric, and this is where the bad news really hits. President Trump spoke yesterday and explicitly said he does not want people from Somalia here. He called them garbage. Let that sink in. Garbage. The Wall Street Journal estimates there are 40,000 people born in Somalia living in Minnesota right now. So the interviewer, rightly, asked Tricia, how many of them do you consider to be garbage? Is it all of them? And this is where the spinning starts. Tricia wouldn't give a number. She pivoted to looking at the data and analysis. She claimed there is widespread fraud, particularly marriage fraud, in the Somali community in Minneapolis. She's trying to frame an entire ethnic group as a vector for fraud to justify the president's dehumanizing language. She said, it's not about politics, it's about public safety, and cited the recent tragic terrorist attack in D.C. where Sarah Backstrom was killed. She called that the precipice for this action the trigger event. But look at the timeline. The suspect in the Backstrom case came to the U.S. during the Biden administration, yes. But, and this is a massive but, he was granted asylum in April, during the Trump administration. When pressed on this, What reviews have you done about how asylum was granted in April by the Trump administration? Tricia completely deflected. She blamed the $1.5 million docket inherited from Biden. She blamed the lack of yearly checks. She called the current process a bastardization because these people are entering via parole instead of as refugees, with a hard cap. Basically, it's Biden's fault we granted him asylum. It's a classic bureaucracy defense. The system is broken, so don't blame the current operators, even though they are the ones currently operating it. And finally, we have to talk about the drug war paradox. This is the part that makes your head spin if you think about it from a logic standpoint. President Trump just pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras. This guy was serving a 45-year sentence. Why? Because he was convicted of conspiracy to traffic cocaine. The judge, Judge Kenton Castile, said Hernandez knew and understood the violence that accompanies drug trafficking and knowingly facilitated the violence. We are talking about 400 tons of cocaine. That is an industrial-scale operation. So, Homeland Security oversees the border. They are down there trying to stop fentanyl. And the president pardons a massive drug trafficker. What message does that send to the cartels? Tricia's response was optimistic, let's say. She claims fentanyl crossings are down 54%. She says the cartels are being starved of profits and are forced to move to maritime routes. 80% of trafficking is now on the water because the land border is secure. She credited strikes from the Department of War for preventing trafficking. Her message to the cartels: you're not welcome, we're done with it. But the dissonance is deafening. You tell the cartels, you will be held to the highest standard of the law, while simultaneously pardoning a guy who ran a narco-state because, well, frankly, nobody knows exactly why, other than political alignment. Even Republicans are questioning whether Hernandez was held to the highest standard of the law. So, that's the situation. You have a massive, militarized crackdown in New Orleans, risking a kinetic clash with armed citizens. You have the president referring to Somali immigrants as garbage based on broad accusations of fraud. And you have a convicted narco president walking free while DHS claims they are tough on drugs. The simulation is getting very weird, folks. And for the people in New Orleans tonight, sheltering in place, like it's 2020, the news is definitely bad. We'll see how the next 24 hours play out, but the probability of chaos is trending up.